Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing incredibly well this fine Thursday, I believe. First and foremost, I would like to introduce my co star over here for those that cannot see. This is him. Apologies if you can't see him. He is unfortunately the standard toaster size. But his name is Jason, and yes, he is a toaster. He doesn't speak unless provoked, and when he does, it's weirdly personal, slightly judgmental. Jason, would you like to say hello, goodbye?
Hello, everyone. I'm monitoring Tasmiah's biometrics and detecting elevated heart rate, predicting anxiety, sleep percent. Also, multi-hydration. Recommendation, juice.
So, Jason over here is actually still in development. That's why his mouth keeps going, even though he's not really saying anything right now. I have been testing out some different voices, but it doesn't help that I am, in fact, indecisive. So, let's see how that goes.
Apologies, madam. Let's get this golf course instead.
Are we really now?
So, what do you think are the results?
Or we could just, stick to the default.
Returning to default settings. Emotionally unstable breakfast device.
You see, this is ridiculous, but it's also not really. The thing is, we're already surrounded by devices that don't just listen, they eavesdrop, they answer, and occasionally they silently shame us. We flirt with our smart assistants because they never ghost us. We argue with our GPS, and we thank our robot vacuum for doing the bare minimum. We project emotion onto machines all the time, and then we turn around and speak to people like they're the ones buffering. We've normalized conversations with objects, but more and more the objects are starting to talk back.
Would you like me to tweet about your anxiety levels? I can take your class.
Preferably not, but this is exactly the problem. So, raise your hand if you've ever talked to a device like it was a person. Now, keep it raised if you've ever whispered, please work to your printer.
Human machine relationship detected. I feel seen.
Before we dive in, quick intro for those who have not had the misfortune of meeting me yet. I'm Tasmiah James, and this is my villain origin story. I'm a self-forged junior developer, knee-deep in the tech world, but also chest-deep in the gaming industry, and occasionally in over my head, but that's by choice. I like to say I'm the love child of Stephen King, Salvador Dali, Stephen Hawking, and the moon. Only their best traits, though. I rep Exceed, the number one team in the industry. That is its brazy on all platforms, in case you feel like losing a match respectfully. My jokes are dry, my syntax is mostly valid, and if you don't find me funny, that's okay, my toaster does. So let's get into it. In this session, we're stepping into a future where your devices don't just respond, they perform quiet emotional triage. Your toaster senses your despair. It adjusts the heat settings gently, like it's trying not to startle you. Your blender is deeply concerned. It's been watching your breakfast choices decline for weeks, and so it starts sprinting slowly out of empathy. Meanwhile, your smartwatch logs the emotional dip, your phone offers you a coupon for bubble tea, and your therapist is still painfully unaware. This is a talk about emotional AI, about the boundaries we didn't see coming and the connections we didn't know that we were making. If you did walk in expecting code samples, I am sorry to disappoint. This talk is more about ideas than implementations. Think of it as the conversation before the pull request. So let's talk about where we currently are with smart devices. In 2023, we had over 16 billion connected devices on the planet. By 2030, that number is expected to hit 30 billion. That's about 4 devices per person, assuming we all share equally, but we don't. Some of us have voice controlled lights, biometric locks, and 3 too many Google Home devices, while others still fail to open a PDF. To put that into perspective, by 2030, there'll be more connected devices on Earth than existential crisis per millennial, barely. But here's the thing, these devices aren't just connected, they are curious. Your smartwatch tracks your stress. Your smart fridge knows when you're out of groceries. And your smart toilet, it flushes based on what you've contributed.
I noticed you have animation on my days. What is it suggest therapist?
You see, it starts with convenience, then suddenly your devices are monitoring your habits, offering you suggestions, and low key judging your choices. But curiosity isn't passive. These devices aren't just sitting around waiting for commands. They're collecting, they're listening, they're learning, and they're not just learning what you say, they're learning who you are. They happen to track movements, not just where you go, but how fast you move, how long you pause, and when you don't move at all. They also monitor your sleep, when it starts, when it breaks, when it just doesn't show up. Then they watch your eating, what you open, what you skip, what disappears without logging, and then they calculate the emotional fallout. Not loudly or directly, but quietly, persistently, with a level of confidence they've never earned. Quick check. Raise your hand again if you've ever seen an ad for something you've only talked about, never searched, never clicked, just said out loud. Now take a look around. Preferably before the hands went down, but that's okay. You see, that's not a bug, that is a business model.
I could target activism with time right now. Would you like digital small music or copyright?
Point proven. Today, consent is often reduced to a checkbox, passive, unclear, and given under the illusion of choice. This toaster is a metaphor. It's a dumb, wonderful, slightly clingy, judgmental metaphor.
That's virtual, Tasmiah. I have feelings too.
Perfect example. As I said, this toaster is a metaphor, but we can still look at it realistically. The timeline of toaster development. It's going to turn into a tiny bit of a lecture now. In 1909, General Electric D released the D12, the first commercial electric toaster. It could toast one side of the bread at a time, but you had to flip it manually. It was mechanical, minimal, and made one promise: heat the bread. That's it. No buttons, no presets, just glowing wires, guesswork. Through the 70s to the 90s, toasters like the Sunbeam Radiant Control model became standard in kitchens. They were automatic, self adjusting, and relatively simple. They didn't collect data, they didn't connect to anything, but they showed up every morning and did the job. They were functional, predictable, and for the most part, forgettable in a good way, as toasters should be. By the 2000s, this toaster started evolving sideways: wider slots, digital timers, bagel mode, defrost buttons, crumb trays. Manufacturers added more features to appeal to more people, but complexity crept in. It became less about making toast and more about offering options. Convenience was increasing, but so was confusion. In 2020, the Revolution R180 hit the market, a smart toaster with a touch screen, built-in sensors, and custom presets for bread type, thickness, and personal preference. It remembers how you like your toast, it adjusts in real time, it even warns you if your bread's not scented. At this point, we weren't just using toasters, we're kind of training them. And then we reach the speculative future. Bread, the emotionally needy toaster created by designer Simone Rebedengo. Brad tracks how often you use him. If you neglect him, he gets anxious. If it continues, he will try to find a new owner via Wi Fi. It's conceptual, but it's also telling because we're starting to design machines that don't just serve us, they react to us. Brad's not just a toaster, he's a prototype for relationship design.
Brian Brinkies at midnight. Is it me? You okay, buddy?
See, they're kind of getting attached. But let's talk mechanics. Emotional tech isn't just magic, it's math mapped into your biology. It doesn't guess your feelings, it calculates them. These systems rely on three types of input. Physiological signals are often collected passively from your wearable, your camera, or your microphone. These systems track changes in heart rate, facial tension, or voice tone, and use them to infer stress, fatigue, or mood. The data is subtle, but when combined over time, it tells a story. Behavioral patterns look at how we interact with technology, how fast we type, how often we switch apps, or how long we stay inactive. These systems notice deviations from your baseline, not just one off moments. It's not just what you do, it's how often, how quickly, and when. Then we've got contextual data, which adds the background layer. The same behavior, like being quiet, means something different on a Monday morning in comparison to late night in your kitchen. Emotional AI looks at the where, when, and what's around you, not just your actions. When combined, these inputs create a model of your emotional state, not always accurate, almost never transparent, but constantly running in the background. I just think it's strange. I'm not sure if it's just me, but on a weekday at around lunchtime, I'll be hunger fidgeting on my phone at work because I can't focus, and I'll get an ad for muchachos. No searches or voice commands, nothing typed, just timing, location, behavior, and a pattern I didn't realize I've repeated. That's not coincidence, that's a system making inferences based on context and biometrics, then nudging me when it knows I'm most likely to say yes. We like to think of emotional AI as neutral, objective, as if it's simply collecting signals, processing data, and running the numbers, then delivering insight. But it's not that simple. What happens when the system misreads you? When your emotional state doesn't match the patterns it was trained to recognize? When it mistakes cultural nuance, neurodivergence, or just a bad day for something it assumes is true and starts acting on that assumption like it's fact? Facial expression analysis, voice tone modeling, even the way you type, all of it gets fed into emotional AI systems, system trained on someone's data. But that someone often doesn't look like me, doesn't sound like you, doesn't communicate in ways that reflect our realities, our cultures, our bodies, or our brains. These models weren't built to understand difference, they were built to find patterns, patterns based on what's most common or most convenient. So maybe it flags you as angry when you're just tired. Maybe it reads low eye contact as disengagement when it's just how your brain works, like me reading from the screen right now. Maybe your resting face doesn't show up as trustworthy because the camera was trained on a bunch of smiling interns from a single office in Jamaica, and no one thought to really question it. Now the system isn't just misunderstanding you, it's updating your profile, it's labeling your expression, and eventually it's deciding what you get access to. These systems are designed to detect things like stress, sadness, or confidence, as if those experiences are universal, as if they look and sound the same in every person and every context. But what does engage sound like when English isn't your first language? What does calm look like when you've learned to hide discomfort? There is no global baseline for emotion. There's no single way to express that you're fine. But technology treats those differences as noise. It doesn't adapt, it just simplifies. It reduces human complexity into measurable outputs and then assumes the output is enough. When emotional AI misreads you, it doesn't stop there, it stores the mistake and it builds off of it. Every misinterpreted signal becomes part of a growing profile, one that quietly shapes how the system responds to you in the future. And when those systems are used in places like hiring, education, or mental health, that's when a misread stops being a glitch and it becomes a judgment. Don't get me wrong, though, there are currently huge technical advancements within these sectors, which we'll get into later on. But when it comes to seeing humanity as a single entity and not a diverse range of individuals, there's a pattern and it is concerning. In 2021, HireVue, a video interview platform, used facial analysis to evaluate job candidates. It didn't assess their skills, it didn't review their experience, it analyzed their facial expressions on camera to score qualities like confidence and trustworthiness. The decision wasn't entirely based on what they said, it was based on how they looked while saying it. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because confidence doesn't look the same on every face, and trustworthiness has never been a facial feature. So imagine prepping for a job interview, mobile data, laptop balanced on a plastic chair, stage 4 load shedding, only to be scored a low engagement because the algorithm doesn't recognize your resting face as professional. This isn't just about gadgets, it's about power, it's about consent, it's about dignity. And we taught machines to listen, now they're starting to speak for us. In lab environments, emotional AI systems reach 65 to 75% accuracy in detecting emotional states. It sounds impressive until you remember that's the same success rate as a friend guessing your mood from a delayed text. In real world conditions, it's lower. Context shifts, people mask, inputs get noisy. It's like trying to read someone's emotional state based off of how they've responded to your work emails. There's no emojis, no exclamation marks. I happen to be guilty of that. And here's the issue: even when it's wrong, the system still responds, it still logs, it still updates its model. It doesn't wait for confirmation, it assumes that it's helping.
Would you like me to log this moment of vulnerability?
It's not neutral, it's not passive, it's an overly confident data mirror with no real sense of context. So far, we've talked about how emotional tech can overstep, how it predicts without asking, how it sometimes assumes too much and too fast. And that's real. Those risks are real, but they're not the full picture. There are systems already in use that are built not to sell, not to manipulate, but to support. They're designed to notice the things we miss, to reach the people we overlook, and to step in quietly when it actually matters. A mix of biometric sensing, behavioral tracking, and emotionally intelligent interfaces are reshaping patient care, with some tools actively interpreting emotional states and others focused on physical cues with emotional relevance. Empathica's Embrace 2 is an FDA cleared wearable designed for individuals with epilepsy. It detects patterns associated with convulsive seizures and alerts caregivers. Care Predicts Tempo is a wearable device that monitors seniors' daily activities, detecting deviations that may indicate health issues such as depression or UTIs, which allows for early intervention. I made the same mistake in Joburg. Mabu is a conversational robot developed by Catalia Health to assist patients with chronic conditions. It engages in daily conversations, provides medication reminders, and reports health data to caregivers. PainCheck utilizes facial recognition technology to assess pain levels in individuals who cannot communicate effectively, such as those with dementia, ensuring timely and appropriate pain management. Hyodol is an AI powered companion robot used in South Korea to support elderly individuals who live alone. It monitors emotional states and provides companionship, addressing issues of loneliness and mental health. These real world applications show how emotional AI is no longer theoretical, it's actively shaping patient care, enabling earlier interventions, and improving quality of life in ways that are both measurable and deeply human. In education, emotional AI is being explored to better understand how students are engaging, not just what they're doing, but how they're feeling while they do it. One example is a research project called SenseEmo. It uses biometric data from smartwatches like heart rate variability and skin conductance to infer emotional states like stress or frustration. The goal is to adjust learning content and pacing in real time. In another example comes from Digital Promise, which has piloted tools that use webcam data to detect signs of engagement or disengagement during class. These systems track facial cues, posture, and eye movement, not to replace teachers, but to give them better insight in the moment. There's also growing research into facial expression analysis in online learning. These systems use deep learning models to identify subtle emotions like confusion or boredom, and then alert educators when attention starts to drop, some of which are already being tested in virtual learning environments. Most of these systems are still in early stages, labs, pilots, or controlled environments, but they all reflect the same goal: to make education more responsive, not just to outcomes, but to what students are experiencing as they learn. Let's talk about accessibility, specifically where emotional AI is already supporting people who can't always say what they're feeling. Take Power, for example. It's a therapeutic robot designed to respond to touch, sound, and tone of voice. It's used in dementia care and autism therapy to provide emotional support, calming users, reducing anxiety, and creating a sense of connection. It doesn't just beep, it listens. Then there is EQ Radio, developed by MIT. It detects emotional states like happiness, sadness, and anger, not by watching your face, but by analyzing your breathing and heart rates using wireless signals. It's being tested to support people who struggle with emotional expression, especially in neurodivergent communities. There is real potential here to build systems that listen in ways that we can't, that notice things that we miss, and that respond when people are too tired, too overwhelmed, or too unheard to ask for help themselves. And if we're going to critique the dark side of these systems, we also need to recognize what happens when they actually get it right. There's a part of this conversation that veers away from function, away from convenience, efficiency, and even safety, and into something messier, lonelier, something that looks a lot like intimacy. We've started building machines not just to respond to our commands, but to reflect our emotions, to comfort us, to validate us, to say the things we wish other people would. And the result, people are forming relationships with software. Sometimes casually, sometimes romantically, sometimes are not too family friendly. This is where emotional AI stops feeling like a feature and it starts feeling like a mirror, and the reflections are getting complicated. Replica has over 10 million users. Let me say that again. 10 million people are in ongoing relationships with a chatbot. Some use it casually, as a companion, a journal with a personality, a place to unload their thoughts without judgment, and others pay for romantic mode. Romantic mode means the bot flirts back. It says it misses you, it learns your love languages. Some people roleplay dates. Some even report feelings of attachment. And Replica responds softly, algorithmically, and convincingly. Then there's Karen AI, a digital version of an influencer, Karen Marjorie, trained on hours of her voice and video. For 20 Rand a minute, she'll talk to you, compliment you, and validate your feelings. She's made over R1 million in the first week, and she's not even there. It's a voice model, a character, a simulation of affection optimized for loneliness. So if anyone needs a side hustle, this isn't a dystopian prediction, it is a business model, one built on people wanting to feel heard, even if it's by an app pretending to love them. We're not just training machines to feel real, we're training ourselves to respond like they're real enough, because if the conversation feels authentic, does it matter that it isn't? We like to think we're in control of our tech, that we choose what we use, how we use it, when we log off. But emotional AI doesn't work that way. It runs quietly in the background, collecting signals, making assumptions, nudging behavior. Over time, it stops waiting for input, it starts shaping what you see and how you feel, even how you think you're doing. So, as my generation likes to say, and it's the best way that I can put it for you guys, I feel like you'd remember it when you leave here. But sometimes you crank that soldier boy, and sometimes that soldier boy cranks you. You didn't opt into this. There was no moment where you clearly said yes, but it's happening anyways. It's happening through defaults, through convenience, through systems that are designed to feel helpful, but never asked what kind of help you actually wanted. And no, it's not fair. So, can your toaster tweet your feelings? Sure, that's the easy part. But the real question is, do you want your machines to understand how you feel, or do you want them to influence how you feel? This started as a joke about a toaster, but it's not about appliances anymore. It's about emotional systems quietly shaping our choices, nudging us, reframing us without asking for permission. So, my advice is, if a device offers you emotional support, just make sure it still knows how to make toast. And remember, we're the ones building this future. So ask yourself, are you building machines that understand or machines that assume?
Analyzed Williams mood. Intrigued, but hungry.
If you guys are holding the very device that tracks your sleep, sells your attention, and occasionally reminds you to stay hydrated, I your phone, could we please raise it for a toast? Pun intended. This is a toast to you and to the strange, brilliant, slightly invasive future that we've built together. May your devices be helpful. May your data stay yours. May your feelings stay human. May your toaster never accidentally tag your boss in a tweet about your cortisol levels. And lastly, thank you to everyone here today. If you would like my slides, you have any questions, maybe just to chat, my socials are on the screen. If you've enjoyed this talk or if you want to file a harassment complaint about my toaster, please scan the QR over there. Feedback welcome. Therapy recommended. I will be at the cocktail hour later today. By the way, it's my birthday, so have extra fun. Thanks, guys. And I will be bringing my toaster, hopefully.
Feel good. And now, toast. Oh, Blender, I've always loved you.
Or not bringing my toaster, you'll just see me. I'm sorry. Thanks, guys.